So today we're going to be talking about day 9, which is optimization. So this is really the process for finding a minimum or maximum value of a specific quantity. So we're going to be working with some word problems. So for our first example, it says a new car manufacturer calculated this equation m of x to represent the total number of miles their car could travel, and that's what m of x is, based on the average speed, which is x. We want to figure out what is the best speed to travel to maximize the distance the car can travel. So we kind of have a lot going on here. First off, it says, this is our equation. It tells us that m of x is the total number of miles it can travel. And then the average speed is x. So the question says, what is the best speed to travel? Well, speed is x, so we're trying to find x. To maximize the distance the car can travel. So we need to find the max, but we want to know what is that x value at that max. So, since we have the equation, we're going to graph, and I'm going to use the calculator that should look similar to your calculator that you have on your Chromebook. This way you can practice if you haven't used it. So it works just like a regular calculator if you have a regular calculator. It's just instead of the screen being on the top, it's to the right. So in your y equals x, we're going to go ahead and type in this equation. So we have negative 0.018x squared, and then plus 2.2x, and then plus 280. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's correct, and looks like it is. Okay. So, you can go ahead and graph if you would like. Now, I had already fixed my windows, so that's why yours is probably not showing up. But guys, on most of these problems, you're going to have to fix your windows so that you can see the graph. A lot of times, either part of the graph will show up, or sometimes you can't even see anything. So, what the things that I changed on here, and so let's go ahead and make a note. So, we graph, because our goal is to find the max here. So, for your window, when you graph, I changed my X max to 150 because when you started graphing, it didn't show up. And then my Y max, if you see how we have this 280 here, it needs to be something bigger than that. So I just changed it to 400. Now sometimes you're going to do this and it's not going to work and you're going to have to start over, and that's perfectly fine. But if you change it to that, it will work. So I'm going to hit that, and now I'm going to hit, now that I've changed my windows, and I normally just change X max and Y max. Now I'm going to graph, and now I can see the whole curve, but I can see plenty of the curve. So I'm just going to sketch this so you'll have a picture here in your notes. So the graph looks something like that, and it keeps going. So we need to find this maximum here. So to find the maximum on the calculator, you go to second, trace, and then number 4, which is maximum. Okay, it's going to say left bound. So here is the max, but you need to move the cursor somewhere on the left side. So I'm going to move it like way over here. So I'm going to hit enter. And then it says right bound. You got to move it on the right side of the max. So somewhere to the right of it. Right there. Should be good. Hit enter. Then it's going to say guess. You have to hit enter again. And now it tells you that maximum. And we're going to round everything to 3 decimal places. So my maximum is at the point 61.111 and 347.222. So what we're given here, when you find this is your x value and this is your maximum value. So if it asks for the maximum, our answer would be this 347. But remember it said, what is the best speed to travel? So that's the x value. So the x value here is at 61.111, and that is our answer, okay, because that's what we wanted. But so this is the speed to travel. Now there was no units or anything here. If there was, we could put that in there. So for most of these problems, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be finding the max or finding the min using your calculator graph. And then depending on what the question asks, sometimes it actually asks for the max. This question said max. This time it said what is the best speed to travel. And we know that was the x value. So 61.111 was our answer for that. Alright, so next. So for example 2, we have an apple orchard contains 50 trees that produce, and that should say 800 apples. For each additional tree that is planted, the yield per tree decreases by 10. How many more trees should be planted so that the maximum number of apples can be produced? Okay, so we have 50 trees. Each tree has 800 apples. So if we just had 50 trees times the 800, that would tell us how many apples we're going to have. But it's saying for each additional tree that is planted, the yield per tree decreases by 10. So if I plant 51 trees, then it's going to be 10 less. So it would be 709. So just a general equation here. For the output of apples, we have the number of trees times the number of apples per tree. That will tell you how many apples you're going to have. Okay, well, we're saying that we're adding additional trees. So we're going to call x, this variable, the number of apple trees added. So that means our equation for our output is, okay, the number of trees that we're going to have, we started out with 50, but we're going to be adding trees, so that's going to be 50 plus x. Okay? And then, when you have 800 trees, but it says that it decreases by 10 for every one that you add, so we're going to have 800 is what we started with, but we're going to decrease by 10 times the number of trees that you add. So that is the equation that we're working with here. Start out with 50 trees, but we're going to add trees. Then it says 800 is how many apples we started out with, but for each tree that you add, that decreases by 10 per tree. Okay, so this is the equation that we're working with. Okay, so it says how many more trees should be planted. So because we're trying to figure out how many more trees should be planted, we just said that is x. So we're trying to find x here, so that the maximum number can be produced. So we need to find the max, and that will tell us our x value that goes with it. So we're going to use our calculator again. So we're going to graph this. You do not have to multiply this out. You can just type that in exactly like it looks in your calculator. So let's go ahead and get our calculator. And I'm going to go ahead and clear my y equals. And we're going to type this in. You're going to type it exactly like it looks with the parentheses. So 50 plus x, parentheses, times 800 minus 10x. Okay, and we'll go ahead and graph, see what happens. So see how I can only see a line on here? So that's not really helping me visualize what's going on. So I'm going to go to my window. I'm going to leave this 150 here. But, okay, I want you to think about something for a second. This y max, if we actually multiplied this out, see how it would have 50 times 800 here? Well, 50 times 800 is 4,000. That means that's going to get pretty high there. So I'm going to change my window for my y max. I'm going to change it to 50,000 just to see. And guys, if it doesn't work, no big deal. You go back and you fix it. Okay, so let's see what happens. We'll see how I can see the graph. Now I can't see the whole thing, but that's enough for me to be able to pick out what the max is. So let's write down what we did for our windows, just so you have that. So in your window, I changed my X max. I just left it at 150 because that's what I have for the last one. And then Y max, I changed it to 50,000. Okay, so we'll sketch us a little graph here. So the max is somewhere around here, and I need to be able to find that max. So on the calculator, remember you're going to go to second, trace, and you want number 4, which is maximum. Left bound, so you got to be somewhere over here on the left side. So move it to the left, and then hit enter, and then move it to the right, hit enter, and then it says guess, you can hit enter one more time. So that maximum is at 15.000 and 42,250. Okay, so what does that max mean? This max, this is the x value, and then this 42,250 is the actual max. What did this question ask for? How many more trees, and remember we said more trees was x, should be planted so that the maximum number of apples is produced. So we didn't want the max, we wanted the x. So the X value here is 15 trees. So we should plant 15 more trees in order for us to produce the most amount of apples there.